REC Experience presents Real Estate, Entrepreneurship, Leadership with your host, Jazz Takhar. The REC Experience podcast is now on air.
Hey. Thanks for being in the REC Experience. I'm your host, Jazz Takhar, with your girl, Laura Elto Stewart. How you doing, Laura?
Hey, Jazz.
Girl, right back at me. You got the hey happening now, too.
I stole a good line.
Well, I guess you're bringing all this energy because we have Mr. Kevin Harrington joining us today. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's a great day, huh?
Well, we really appreciate your time, and we're going to kind of get right into this. Kevin, there's obviously a few people that haven't heard from you, heard of you or seen you. I want to talk to them. They can't be that many, or they've been living under a rock or something. Hey, you're all over TV. You're one of the biggest entrepreneurs known, and so I want to talk a little bit about kind of your comic book history. Where did it all kind of start for you?
Okay, great question. So I'm one of six kids. Grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My father was a bartender, and he had a desire to be an entrepreneur. So he saved up money and he opened up Harrington's Irish Pub. And so, and there at 11 years old, I was in there working inside my father's place. But I say, how did I get a mentor at the age of 11? Well, it was my father who was teaching me. He didn't just have me washing dishes. Yes, I washed dishes and I bar backed and I served meals and things. It was a restaurant bar. But he would show me the buying processes, the suppliers, the closing of the books at the end of the day. And at 11 years old, I'm learning all these things. And so finally, after a few years, I said, Dad, I love all this stuff, but you own the business. You're making money. How do I make a lot of money? Because this is way back in actually the 60s when I first started. So I was only making $1 an hour. And he said, son, you have to own your own business. Okay. So he mentored me. I started my own business when I was 15, driveway sealing while I was in high school. Then I did that for a few years and then got to college. I needed a full-time income because my dad said, your older sisters, I'm number 4. They got their college paid for, but you're not going to get your college paid for because you can go out and make a living and do it yourself. So I had to have a full-time income for tuition, for books, for an apartment at the school, utilities, a car, insurance, very expensive. I started a full-time business and it was a heating and air conditioning company, which is year round. And so make a long story short, though, I ended up selling that because I didn't want to be in the labor side of those businesses long term, right? Okay. I was making money, but I'm like, I want to be much bigger. I want to be global. And so I started selling businesses. So I was a business broker and I'm selling pizza parlors, delicatessens, flower shops, manufacturing companies, all kinds of businesses, large and small. I sold over 1,000 different companies, but I had the books and records of each business because if I'm going to sell it, I got to be able to tell the buyer how well it's doing. So think about this. You're sitting in your office. You've got hundreds of businesses for sale. You've got the books and records. You got the percentages, the food costs if it's a restaurant, the leases, the operational costs. You've got the actual leases that the buyers want to see. What are they committing to? And so this was an education all unto itself in business. Selling the businesses, I had to be familiar with what was happening, but I would see them grow after I sold them. I'd see them drop and I'd find out why. Why did the guy that bought it all of a sudden run it into the ground? Oh, well, he stopped all advertising because he thought that was an expense, but it really was an investment to get the people to come in. You can't just, if the guy's doing a great business, all of a sudden you take all the ads out of the yellow pages and everything just stops. It's going to hurt you. He thought he's going to make more money. It cost him the whole business. So anyway, one day I used to go to a lot of trade shows and I'm watching I just got cable TV. Now, this is the early 80s now. So gone from the 60s to the 80s. And I'm watching cable, CNN, 24 hours of news, HBO, movies, MTV, music. I get to channel 30, which is the very last channel of a 30 channel package, and there's nothing on. So I called the cable company and said, hey, I'm paying for 30 channels, but there's nothing on channel 30. And they said, oh no, that's Discovery. It's our newest channel. They only program 18 hours a day. And there's nothing for 6 hours. So I thought to myself, wait a minute, nothing is going to air for 6 hours a day.
So blank screen.
I could put something on that block of time. And they said, hey, we'd entertain anything. So I went down and I said, so I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to come up with it. I'm going to get back to you, because I was dealing with so many different businesses. I thought, what can I do? Well, I was that right around that time, I was at a home show, and I'm watching a guy with a knife in his hand. He's cutting through a Coca-Cola can and through a muffler and through a pair of sneakers. He called it the Ginsu knife. And so I watched this pitch. I bought a set of Ginsu knives. And as I'm watching him, he did it again. And a third time, the exact same words came out of his mouth. And that's when I went back to him and I said, wait a minute. I said, I want to film that pitch. I'm going to take it over to the cable guys, the Discovery Channel, and see if we can make some money selling this, because he was pitching this to 10 people at a time. What if we could pitch it to 1 million people at a time? Well, that's what we did. And this was the birth of the modern day infomercial business.
Right.
We sold kitchen products, the Food Savers, the Jack LaLanne juicer, George Foreman, Tony Little Fitness, you name it. We were doing billions of dollars of sales. And this was back in the early 80s into the early 90s. I took the company public. We went to $500 million in annual sales. It was an amazing thing that I was a young entrepreneur, really didn't understand what I was building. But it was almost like Amazon today.
Yes.
Because this was direct to the consumer. Kitchen products, hardware products, fitness products, beauty products, you name it. We had hundreds and hundreds of infomercials. And then we started taking them around the world. So I went to London. We opened up there. I went to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I went to Latin America, Sao Paulo, went to Tokyo. We had partnerships all around the world, and we created billions of dollars. So I think you said keep the story short.
No, it's
long, but anyway, that was it.
Awesome. It's awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that, because now our listeners and viewers know, Laura, we're sitting with the man who started infomercials. You blazed over something that I want to make sure that the viewers and the listeners caught. Over $500 million in sales, 500 million. That's amazing.
Well, and guilty. I mean, I think every university student who I ever met had a George Foreman grill. I mean, that's how we lived. We wouldn't have been able to live without that. So, I just remember back to my childhood, staying up late with my friends when they would come over for sleepovers, and we used to watch that channel, as seen on TV. Then we would go to the store and try to buy all the products that were there. I mean, it's such a genius idea.
So I created ascenatv.com, Ascena TV Inc., and we had thousands of products in over 100 plus countries. And so now that was a very successful business, but this is the thing. We talk about mentoring. I had a mentor. My father was my first mentor. And now business started, we reached a peak, and then it started kind of declining. And I thought, why is this happening? Well, guess what? Television viewership in the last 10 years has dropped by 50%. So I'm the Ascena TV guy, but people are not watching as much television. I mean, you personally, both of you probably watch less than you used to. Sure. Why? You're on the internet, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, watching maybe Netflix, something else. Internet has hurt the Ascena TV business, but what I did was I transitioned a number of years ago into digital. So we now do a lot of testing on Facebook and Instagram and all the different, YouTube and all the different internet type of opportunities. So we didn't wait until the business was kind of dying. But, Amazon also came in to play. They started competing they were direct to the consumer. I was direct to the consumer. QVC came along. Now, they were also competitive, but we actually sell a ton of products to both Amazon and QVC. So we continue to get the best of all worlds.
Now, Kevin, it seemed like you had a very strong why. I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, like you really wanted more out of your life while you were working for your father. You got to see what he was building in terms of the restaurants and the businesses. Then you got to see the consumers and the people that you were helping buy and sell. And so it seemed like your why was very strong. Can you just talk about the importance of having a strong why?
Yes. So one of my other mentors was a man by the name of Zig Ziglar.
Oh, amazing.
Zig the motivator and sales trainer. So Zig, I started following Zig and he became a mentor to me. And Zig, he had a main philosophy that you can get everything out of life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And so when people would come to me, they were inventors. They had this idea, they had this product. I truly wanted to help them. And so the why for me was, yes, I wanted to be successful, but there was nothing that made me more charged up than seeing somebody that had no money, no knowledge, come to me with an idea, and now I'm sending them millions and millions of dollars, okay? Arnold Morris, the Ginsu guy, was the very first one, but it was dozens and dozens of people. Billy Mays, I don't know if you remember Billy with the beard,
Oh, yes.
Billy Mays, OxyClean, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I had a mission to just do lots of great things, but help a lot of people, because if I can help them make money, I'm going to make money in the process. And so, yes, I mean, this was part of the mentoring that I got. And of course, along the way, this was an amazing Richard Branson. I was sitting with him in Necker Island, and he was giving me some advice. And again, I consider Richard a mentor of mine also. Richard's like, Kevin, you built that Tony Little brand, you built that Jack LaLanne brand, that Billy Mays brand, but you never built your own brand. So I said, what should I do? He says, write books, start creating content. So I started doing all of that. And then who was watching as I was putting books out? Mark Burnett from Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. And so Mark Burnett called and said, Kevin, I need to talk to you. And I said, hey, Mark, this is great. What do you want? He says, I've got a new show called Shark Tank. And I said, hey, Mark, I know what you do to those people on Survivor Island show. It gets pretty crazy. What are you going to do to me on Shark Tank? Okay. And he's like, no, he said, it's not crazy. It's business. Okay. And so, I mean, now 11 seasons later, we know what Shark Tank is, but I was there for the pilot. I'm the original shark, and I did 175 segments. And so the rest is history. That was a great move for me to get on a show like that, because it popped my profile and gave me the chance to build my own brand also along the way.
Well, and not only that, Kevin, but it allowed you to really give back from a mentorship perspective. So really that story comes full circle. I do want to know about on the show, like obviously you got pitched to many, many times. Is it that somebody had to come to you with a unique idea, like something that no one's ever thought of before? Or was it really just in the pitch, how they positioned themselves to you that made you want to buy in?
Yeah. So I say I have a pitching formula. And so the simplest, I have a 10-step and I have a 3-step. And because of time today, I'm going to give you the 3 steps. And it's called tease, please, and seize. So you tease when you're pitching, you got to tease with an attention-getting problem. In other words, first of all, if you don't have the attention of the person you're pitching, they're not going to listen. The rest is worthless. So get their attention, but start with a problem that they identify. Now, that's the tease. Now you got the attention. Now you please by solving the problem in a unique fashion with testimonials and magical transformations. And this is the most important step. The pleasing step is the selling step. It's selling the benefits, the features, and the uniqueness. And I say, is it unique enough such that there's no other product or service that solves the problem in a similar fashion? Okay, so you start with a problem. Now you're going to solve it uniquely such that no other product or service solves that problem in a similar fashion. Now you need to seize, and that means create an irresistible offer. So, because if you don't have a good deal at the end, and this is where the whole thing that we created in the industry, but wait, there's more, okay? Because we would tell you, here's the item, and it's $29.95, right. But wait, we're going to give you more because we're creating an irresistible offer.
How did you come up with that, Kevin? How did you come up with that? Wait, there's more. And
there was all different ways to say it. Hold on, we've got more to give you, and it just became, but wait, there's more, because that was simple and easy to understand. Okay. And Billy Mays was a big part of that too. So God bless Billy. But the bottom line, again, tease them, please them, seize them. And I've taken over 50,000 pitches now over my last 38 years in the business. Wow. And I will say, most people don't know how to pitch. And this was part of the problem on Shark Tank, is people would come out, they would be all over the place. And I ended up, after finally having enough time on the show, I said, hey, I'm going to move on and do my thing, because the Shark Tank was like, last night I was on Shark Tank. All my segments run on repeat now on CNBC. So I'm getting all emails and stuff last night. Last night I invested in a golf club that men, when they're out golfing, they can pee in the club. It's not a real club. It's for them, so they don't have to go into the bushes. And it was a gag gift, right? Okay. So people are like, why did you invest in that, Kevin? I'm like, well, because we get products like that on big talk shows, on the comedy shows, on Good Morning America, and all of that. So, and by the way, just having the product on Shark Tank is a great way to help sell product, because all the people are watching on ABC. So if I would invest in something, then I owned half of the company or whatever that was selling the product being featured on Shark Tank. So there's a pretty good advantage there. But yeah, I learned what it takes to give a good pitch. And now my business model is helping entrepreneurs and mentoring them. And thus the whole book of that we've come out with. Are you familiar with my new book called Mentor?
No, I want you to name the new book. Go ahead. What's the name of the new book?
Yeah. So I'll just hold it up. It's called Mentor to Millions. And the bottom line is that I've had so many mentors in my life, from Zig Ziglar to Richard Branson to my father to many others, financial mentors. I tell the story in the book. I tell people how to get a mentor, what to look for in a mentor, and also how to be the mentor's best student. Because if you're going to go get a high-powered mentor, the last thing you want is not to do what they tell you to do, right? And so, it's important that you have the right kind of systems and follow up and all that. But the bottom line is now that's really, I'm involved in about 35 companies, and I sit on boards, advisory boards. 9 of those companies are public companies, and I'm just sort of mentoring my relationships in these companies. And I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest things many of these companies need, and these are some companies, they've been around for years. They aren't sophisticated in the world of digital marketing, customer acquisition. So I would say that's been my strength for 38 years, finding products and acquiring customers to buy them. That's what I do now as I mentor the dozens of companies that I'm involved with, is how do you grow your business exponentially by getting the right team of people, the right team of mentors inside your company, as well as the right kind of digital expertise to be able to focus on customer acquisition.
So, Kevin, a bunch of our listeners are actually investors of real estate, because Jazz and I are actually real estate agents. Yeah. And what we hear a lot from investors is that they're scared to take a leap of faith, or they have a lot of naysayers in their life. And given that you've invested in so many companies and it can be quite risky, what would be to your advice to those people who, like, they just don't want to go off the beaten path and they're nervous? It's, my mom tells me I shouldn't do it. My best friends or my circle of friends think it's too risky. What's your advice to those people?
So, that's a great question. by the way, when I first decided I was going to get into business, my mom said, "No way." She said, "You're graduating." I had to quit school, right? College, because I had 25 employees while I was my junior year of college. And so I would go to school, then I'd go to my office, and then I'd finish at 11 o'clock at night. And then I'd go back to school in the morning. And so she said, "That's ridiculous for you to think you're going to go into business selling products direct to the consumer. Like you're going to compete against the retail stores that are out there." How do you? Yeah. Okay. So I said, "Mom, yes, that's what I'm going to do." Well, guess what? Retail. What do you think retail's going through right now? Some of the toughest times ever. Me, I've had amazing success in the world of direct to the consumer. So thank God. I love, God bless my mom. She's passed now a few years back, but she really then said to me at one point, she says, "Thank God you didn't listen to me." Okay. So all I have to say is this: if you do it prematurely and you don't have the right people part of your team, you may be making a mistake to go off and go spend a bunch of money doing something that is new and something you don't have experience in. However, like when I first started in the as seen in TV business, I needed to raise capital. I didn't know how to do that. I hired a bank president that had retired, and he came in and he raised us $3 million so we could go build the business. We grew the business tenfold from 50 million to 500 million by getting a mentor in the finance area. I didn't know how to go to banks and raise money, but he did, and we did it together. So I say to those people that if you have the idea and it vets out nicely, make sure you've got some of the right folks to be part of that team to launch that business. And if you have the right people, then go for it. And now is the time, because there's so many businesses that are upside down from this COVID pandemic that things are, I'll give you an example. So when COVID hit, a lot of people just put their head in the sand and they're like, "Well, I can't do anything," right? Well, so what happened is there was tens of millions of people unemployed sitting at home. What are they doing? They're on their computer or they're on TV. So television viewership was skyrocketing. So was internet usage skyrocketing. And then at the same time, advertisers were plummeting because the restaurants that were closed weren't advertising. The concert promoters that were closed weren't advertising. So you had huge viewership, few advertisers. We capitalized on that in-between place where we could go after customer acquisition. So I had campaigns that were running $18 to acquire a customer. We cut it to $5 to acquire a customer during the pandemic. And now things have leveled off a little bit, but the bottom line is now is the best time to start something new, because the world has been shaken up and put back in a place where nobody knows what's the best way to go.
And it's like, when you were speaking about, Kevin, the bank manager that came into your life and then he helped you raise $3 million. I was reminded of what Dr. Martin Luther King said, that you don't need to see the whole staircase, just see the first step. And it seems kind of like your life, like your personal life, Kevin, has been like that. Like it just starts to unfold in front of you.
Yes. I have a thing that I talk about where I say, if in the early days, we waited till we had something at 100% level of completion and ready to go, packaging, everything. And it was take so long and so much money. We said, let's get it to 80, 85, 90%, and then pull the trigger. Because if it doesn't work, you're going to save a lot of money in the process. So we say fail fast, fail cheap.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And so
a sign here.
Yes.
That's like
ready, fire. That's okay. It's people have accused me of that, but I saw that first flight of steps in the direct response TV business. I didn't know that I was going to be able to go all around the world into 100 countries, but I knew I could take Arnold Morris's Ginsu and put it on TV and make money with it. And then Billy Mays and the next one and the next one. So yes, that's exactly what we did. Ready, fire, aim. And once we aimed, then we built the $500 million business. So it's great. I love your signs. Got any more signs for me?
We got tons around here somewhere. Well, first thing we're going to have to do is make sure we get copies of your book. And for anybody who's watching or listening, I'll make sure in the descriptions you'll find out how to get a copy of Kevin Harrington's new book, Mentors to Millions. We're very, very excited. Are you going to have an audiobook for it, by the way?
Yeah, we do have. Audio's done, everything.
Okay.
Yeah, the book launches in a couple of weeks. It's going to be amazing. We're already hitting some really powerful levels of engagement on Amazon and all the different places. Our publisher is very excited about this book right now.
Well, and so are we. I want to talk, I've always been a salesperson myself. Since I was 12 years old, I was that kid knocking on doors for newspapers and then shoe sales, and it just goes on. And now I've been doing real estate for 15 years. I actually want to learn from you, Kevin, in terms of sales. What is it that, what's a couple of tips for our salespeople that are listening that they can actually practically take and make use of right now?
So one of the things I talk about, when a company came to me, they needed $20 million cash. And so they said, will you write me a check for 20 million? I said, no. I said, I invest, but I don't make those kind of big investments. I said, I'll give you the first $250,000 and I'm going to help you go raise the next 19 plus million. And so then we set up meetings with 100 potential investors. So now we were making a sale to get them excited about us. But I didn't just come in and start blasting away with my sales pitch. I started by spending 10 minutes with each person to understand them, what they like in investments, what kinds of investments have worked for them before. And so at the end of the day, once they told me what it was they liked in investing, and some would say, oh, I focus on something with strong management, or I like patents, or I like strong IP, intellectual property. Others would say, I won't invest unless I've got unless there's strong sales and profits, right? But funny enough, when Mark Zuckerberg was launching Facebook, he had no sales, no profits, but he was all about customer acquisition again, right? So he sat down with an investor and told them, I've got 1 million users. I'm going to get to 10 million if you give me $5 million. And this is Peter Thiel, who wrote him a check for $5 million for 10% of Facebook. But he appealed to what Peter Thiel did not want to hear about profits, sales. He wanted to hear about users, user growth. So once you identify what it is that excites the person and what it is that's going to turn them on to make the investment, then you've got to pitch to that point. So this in sales, you've got to get to know the person you're selling first so you can become their friend and make that sale possible. This is one of the things that I pride myself on is focusing on the person that I'm pitching. One last story on this. People on Shark Tank, they're always coming out, me, trying to sell me on investing in their deal. Oh, I'm the best. I've got the greatest product, right? What they don't realize, I'm an investor. I want to know, how am I going to make a big return on my investment? So when people would come out and say, I know what it'll take to get you to invest, Mr. Harrington, because I'm going to give you an accelerated payback. You're going to get for $100,000, 10% of my company, but I'm going to give you 100% of the profits until you get all your money back. Then you get 10% for the rest of your life. See, they got to know me or study me and pitched me to my points that I needed, because I don't want to hear about the selfish entrepreneur that's concerned about themselves. I need to make sure it's a safe investment that's going to bring me a return on my investment. So that's a little bit of knowledge on how I have learned to sell. And, it's important to get to know your customers as well as possible.
For anybody who's watching or listening, if you've ever wondered why you want mentors in your life, that's the reason right there. I'm not sure if everyone caught it, but see, it's a lot easier because Kevin's hit his head against the wall a few more times than Jazz and Laura have, and more than most of people that are listening and watching. And that's the importance of a mentor, because now we hopefully don't have to hit our head against the wall as much. That makes sense, though? Like that's why you want to be involved in mentorship.
Yeah. And I guess I was going to just kind of take our conversation to a bit of a different place. A lot of our listeners and viewers come to us and ask a bit about, happiness and balance and finding your passion. It sounds like, you've obviously had a very, very successful career. It sounds like you have no intentions of slowing down. What's your advice for people who are like, how do you balance it all? Family, life, work life, or do you not? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I have to balance it. I have a beautiful, I've been married twice, and I will admit, first time around, I made some mistakes because I wasn't as balanced. I've been 16 years with my current wife, and we're amazing success in our marriage. And it's because I do set the boundaries. I do, I block off many nice vacations, long weekends, lots of, and I will tell you, COVID has been a pretty good thing for us because I'm traveling a lot less. And I've learned a little bit through this that when things pick back up again, I'm not going to be hitting the road. I was 200 days on the road last year. That goes in spurts. I'm this year in 6 months, 2 days on the road. Okay. Wow. So, it's a big difference. COVID has educated a lot of us about things that we need to do. But the bottom line though, is I've always respected the time that the family needs, my kids, my wife. We go on quite a few. I don't do 2 week long vacations. I do a lot of 4-day vacations, maybe a dozen of those, So that way I'm getting plenty of peace and quiet and recharge time. And I schedule, I have definitely a crazy schedule, but when the schedule's done at a certain point of the day, whether it's 6 o'clock or whatever, I got the rest of the night for family, for dinners, for fun, for movies, for whatever it is. So you got to balance. It's so important because.
Love that. Thank you so much for your honesty there, because we get this question all the time from people, especially because people think that to be successful, you have to sacrifice on the other side. So I really appreciate you giving that advice.
And
I calendar all of my personal stuff. I have my own personal calendar of time for the family. Absolutely.
And we want to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the new book that you put out. Thank you for all the content. Guys, gals, make sure you go check out Kevin's Instagram page and Facebook. What is the easiest place for people to find you?
If they want to find out about the book, and by the way, Mark, Tim, and I are the co-authors. We give you 30 days of free mentoring if you just buy the book. And it's a $20 book, 30 days of free mentoring. KevinMentor.com is where you find it. KevinMentor.com. That's where you get it. $20, you're in. You got all these. That includes the audio book, the book, 30 days of mentoring, all kinds of other bonuses. Send everybody to that website, kevinmentor.com. And it's great stuff. And
well, it might not matter to you, but we love you, Bob.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Jazz, I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
This has been the REC Experience Podcast with Jazz Takhar, an REC Canada production.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Please take a second right now to subscribe and follow us on whatever podcast platform you're watching or listening. It means the world to me. Thank you.